Congratulations on Fresh Kills. I just got to watch it.
Thank you. Did you get to finish the film?
I got through most of it.
Oh, awesome. Awesome.
Yeah, well, it's really impressive. It's your directorial debut,
Yep. Wrote and
and
directed, produced
and
everything.
you wrote it as well. I'm really curious about, so it's sort of a feminist take on the family crime drama.
Mhm.
Talk a little bit about, first of all, conceiving of the film and writing it. I
Mhm.
understand you grew up in Staten Island, so maybe
Yes.
you knew a little
Yes.
bit about the types of people in this film.
Yeah, I was born in Brooklyn and much like the family in the movie, moved to Staten Island when I was probably the young girl's age in the film, probably around 10. And yeah, I grew up around some very tough young women. And it stayed with me. It just stayed with me. And I didn't know anything else really. Like the community I was around, the guys and the girls, like but there was something more about the women that seemed more rageful, and it, like I said, it stayed with me. And then when I got out into, I left Staten Island at 18 and I got into the business, and I realized that why it stayed with me. And I think it was a feeling of being stuck in a slot or born into something that maybe necessarily I didn't choose. And being female and being in the business, that's what it felt like to me, that there were separate rules for me as a woman that I didn't necessarily agree to. And then being Italian was very ethnic back then. And being from New York, it was like, I feel like we're all put into some kind of box that it helps the world understand. And I didn't like that. I really didn't like that. I didn't like that with my career. I didn't like it because of my gender. So I realized why that story of when I was a kid and those young women, why it stayed with me so much. So this has been in my head to write for pretty much 20 years.
Yeah, yeah. So talk a little bit about the plot and the family dynamics. Your character Francine is the mother. She has two daughters who are sort of going through growing up on Staten Island. And I'm interested in the kind of yeah, I mean, you really do flesh out these female dynamics. And I was curious about, I know what you're saying about the rage and that there's a lot of female on female violence in this. And that's really
Tons.
interesting.
Yeah, and that, it's funny because when I started to send the script around, and I would talk to some people, and it was amazing, and it was mostly male, and this is not male female nonsense. I'm just saying what came up a lot from males were they were very uncomfortable with that kind of violence, seeing that. Whereas some of the women were like, oh, amazing. It's like, we're taught we're not supposed to be angry. We're not supposed to express anything but sweet and, sugar and spice kind of thing. And that's not all of us. And we look at that in this movie, which I think is really important because, again, that's what I saw growing up. I saw women being aggressive and rageful and unleashed. And then when I got out in the world, it was like even me not being like that, but having a certain kind of way that I grew up around, even saying something the wrong way, like was looked at as wrong. And you can't express if you're angry, everything is yes. And so I thought, wow, there's a real cultural difference here that I really wanted to explore. I really wanted to explore that because yeah, I think it's going to be I think it's going to be very well received. I really do, as far as seeing the women go to that extent. And that was the other thing I would get. Of course, in these mafia genres, they love to see the men do this kind of thing. They love it, and it's never talked about. And I just find it incredible that because I'm a female, I would have people read the script and they'd be like, oh, but that mafia thing with the men, they shoot each other. And I was like, well, what if it's the women? And it was like, wait a minute. It's like, why do we glorify it on one end and then we criminalize it on the other end? And it doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah. So talk about your experience being a first-time director, bringing your own words to life in this way. What was give me a moment or a scene that was the most challenging or interesting for you to kind of work through on this film?
I wanted to go to film school when I was a kid and I couldn't afford it. And so I felt like, acting would be a way to also tell stories. And I just always felt not completely fulfilled in that area. I wanted to fully tell a story. And this was with me for so long that the directing, that was like finally feeling I'm home. Like that felt very right. I've also taught acting throughout my career. So working with the actors, that was fine. It was actually, that is what I love. All the other part of directing, being able to really get this story through production design and my shots, and that was incredible. I loved it. What was tricky is, when you're doing this, 3 different time periods in 22 days with very little money and very little, help. That could have been easier. That would have been great if that was easier, so that's always tricky. But I started in independent film. I started where we were like, changing our wardrobe in the backseat of a car, and like we'd hold our own boom, do our own makeup. Like, so I'm used to that stuff. I love that. Like that to me, if we're making a great piece of work, I'm all about it. So that doesn't bother me. But the time crunch and that was challenging.
Talk about the two young actresses who play your daughters and bringing their relationship in the film to life. I think that's so central to the movie. Talk a little bit about what you were exploring there.
Yeah, I mean, I always say that these two characters, because people always ask me, is this based on your life? It's not based on my life, but I am pretty much everyone in the movie. So I like to say who I am is Rose, who I had to become was Connie. So it's basically these two sisters who Odessa Azion and Emily Bader, who are phenomenal actresses that I'm so excited to see where they go. It's about these two sisters and how they are digesting as they understand who and what their family is,
Mm-hmm.
and how each one digests that is differently, and why, and what they do to survive in this place that they didn't have a choice in being, and what that does to one another. There's a very strange, I always like to say it's like crabs in a bucket. If one is trying to crawl out and they'll kind of grab you and pull you back down. And I feel like in the community where I was from, like if you talked about having dreams and ideas and something other than the norm of what everyone else was doing, you were looked at as, who you think who you are. You're a traitor kind of thing, and you think you're better than us. And it's almost like if you think you're going to stray too far, we're going to pull you back, because if you go, it messes up what we believe of our lives. And that is a very, very big theme in the movie.
Yeah, I think there's even a scene between them where I think it's Connie says, "I'm your people. This is where you're from. And you can't talk badly about us."
Exactly. And it's and then you have the Italian culture of being, we are all about respect, and it is true. There's a very big thing of loyalty in those communities, which is wonderful. But it's also detrimental if you want anything more. So it feels like, oh, you're betraying us kind of thing.
Is there a scene for you that was the most meaningful to shoot?
There's many. There's one moment that there was talk of like, oh, I don't think we can get this because we don't have the street closed. You know, independent films, we're trying to grab as much as we can. We need to close the street, blah, blah, blah. And I said to everyone, I said, hear me when I say this. This scene will not be cut. And I'm all about getting what we need and moving, but this was such an important scene to me, to the character, but I know how deeply it hits. It's the scene where Emily, who plays Rose, has a moment alone in the street, and it's a private moment for this character that we don't see because she's so surrounded by and influenced by her family and the world around her and the fear and what she should be, that this moment of freedom when she's able to breathe is heartbreaking and beautiful. And to me, it's one of the most beautiful scenes in the film. And there's no words.
I love that. Jennifer, that's a great place to end. Congratulations on Fresh Kills. I hope everyone gets a chance to see it at Tribeca, and I think we're going to be hearing a lot about it. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks for watching the You Interview channel. With over 3,000 original celebrity videos, we have one of the largest collections of celebrity interviews anywhere. So remember to like and comment on our videos and subscribe to the channel. If you want to get more involved, you can become a member of the channel. Membership has its perks. You can see exclusive celebrity videos and get the opportunity to ask our celebrity guests questions. We can't wait to hear from you.